Good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday, December 18th. This is our Governing Board regular meeting. I'm pleased to call this meeting to order. Before we get started, please rise if you can and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, everyone, and welcome. My name is Christine Novello. I am the president of the Sun City West Governing Board. I'm joined today by all members of the Governing Board. If you want to know who is who, if you're here for the first time or watching us for the first time, just go back to our first workshop meeting that was held September the 6th. In that video, we all introduced ourselves in real time, so you can learn a little more about us there. We do have quorum, as I just mentioned, so I will read our meeting procedures. They have not changed for those of you who come regularly, but again, for those who do not. The Governing Board and its committees conduct all their meetings in compliance with Arizona Planned Community Association open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804, and in concert with RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures, as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, Procedures for Owner-Member Meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and number 3. So with that out of the way, we will move on to our minutes approval. Our last regular meeting was held on November the 20th, and the meeting minutes were attached to our agenda. Directors, do I have any changes, updates, concerns? So do we have consensus to file? Excellent. We have consensus to approve, and those will go in file. We'll move on to new business then. We have three matters. Again, we have several matters to discuss today. Before we take them up, I just want to again remind for any residents who were not with us last week during our workshop meeting, you missed a fun time. It was 3.5 hours long. I mention this not to frighten anyone, but to say today we're considering motions that we debated and discussed at length last week. So if you are here for the first time and wondering why we're not debating or discussing at length, you can go back to the 3.5-hour meeting and see it all. But I just wanted to make sure that you're aware we're not rubber stamping anything. We're not just going along with each other. We had a very lengthy discussion on all the matters, or most of the matters we're considering today. So with that, we will move to our first item of new business, which is pertaining to a motion to add something back or for consideration of our capital items for the upcoming year. So Director Chatton, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, President Novello. Per Properties Committee recommendation, I move that the Governing Board consider adding a commercial/teaching kitchen to the capital improvement budget in the 26-27 budget/financial plan.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Director Schlemmer. A quick explanation for us, please, Director Chatton.
Yeah, when we did our properties tours, we looked at a couple of kitchens, and several people on the tour thought that, well, wouldn't it be nice if we had a commercial kitchen where we could do some teaching, where we could actually do some of our own preparation. And we talked to staff, and we decided that the committee certainly couldn't come up with where this commercial kitchen should be, should we have one, but we would leave that up to staff. But the committee as a whole wanted it forwarded so that it didn't get put off for another year or two, and to get it in the 26-27 budget. If it happens to get not passed, then this will go into the master planning process. So one way or another, it will be considered, as will the other two motions that I will be presenting.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that. So I know we had a lot of discussion, directors, about this motion and some of the others that we're considering today. So just know that if for some reason we do not agree to request this to be added in for consideration, this or any of the items on the list, they'll be forwarded to the master planning process, which was the original or the intent, I believe, for many of these prior to the Properties Committee making this recommendation. So that being said, directors, we had hours of discussion last week on this topic, but nonetheless, anything that you wish to comment on or ask questions about now? Yes, Director Piaskowski.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys remember Tamara. She used to do classes for our CSCW, and she would hold cooking classes. And the cooking classes only could be done with crock pots and all those slow cookers, that kind of stuff. And I think they did it in rooms, but I want to say they were always sold out. So there is a need. I just don't think that we've offered that. So.
Thank you, Director Piaskowski. It was even mentioned as a possibility in our strategic planning process. It's in the little strategic plan as a possibility for future evaluation. Again, I think what the Properties Committee saw was a recommendation to consider it sooner than that. But I can also add one of the clubs here in Sun City West, the Zymergy Club. This is just personal knowledge. There may be other clubs as well, but the Zymergy Club explores the science and art of fermentation. They also explore other crafting that's adjacent. And they've also started, they picked up on the interest in cooking, and they offer some cooking classes where the participants assemble everything and then take the items home to cook at home once they've actually been assembled per the recipe. But there's an interest there, and they're also selling out all of those classes and offering them in repeat. Just anecdotal information. So there is definitely an interest. And again, that question is more for us to evaluate whether this is something we want to include in and consider in the capital budget for the fiscal year 27, which is 26-27, starting next July. Any other questions, comments? Director Turner?
Yes, my only concern is that I think a commercial kitchen and a teaching kitchen are two different things. And I understand and appreciate there may be need for teaching. I'm not sure we have a need for commercial without running banqueting services. And because of that difference and differential, I think we probably need to delay this to the long-term plan.
So it's a matter of defining the scope of what you're saying. We did see commercial kitchens in some of the three properties that we toured last week, and they are set up more for banquet to serve and cook and so forth. So I think it's the definition. Right. Director Chatton, is there any other? We talked about this again at length last week, but anything else you wanted to add there?
I don't think so. The Properties Committee looked at this extensively, and I think they were probably more focused on a teaching kitchen than they were a commercial kitchen, but nevertheless, it was forwarded from the Properties Committee as a commercial/teaching kitchen. So.
Is there anything else that, yes, Director Becknell?
So there are multiple levels of what you would consider a teaching kitchen or a commercial kitchen. It can be everything from just having simple hot plates at 5 or 6 stations for people to do cooking at. We have ovens in several of our facilities, but I think we kind of got the cart before the horse a little bit, because without a club who has a charter, who have an agenda of what we want to do, I think looking at doing any kind of commercial kitchen and what it is they themselves would want and or need, I think we're, like I said, cart before the horse.
Yeah, so Director Becknell, again, it's a matter of defining what we need and where defining more of the interest. As I mentioned, there are some anecdotal, there seems to be interest, but we don't have a definition. Yes, Director Chatton?
I think that what the Properties Committee was looking at in conjunction with staff is that would be primarily up to staff to figure out just exactly what this would look like. If you didn't have tennis courts, you wouldn't have tennis club until after you had tennis courts. You wouldn't have a swimming club until after you had a pool. So to say that we have to have a cooking class before we have a teaching kitchen, I don't necessarily agree with that. Sometimes the horse has to come before the cart.
That could get messy, but yes, go ahead. But I had a question, but I'm going to, no, I'd like to defer to Director Forsey first.
I think kind of what Ann has pointed out is there's a lot that can be done with what we have. I also agree that there should be a chartered club to where you've got a board that's responsible and accountable and that's coordinating instead of we want this. Oh, that's lovely too.
Understood. I think it's scope and timing then, Director Forsey? Is that the? Okay, so, is there, Director Chatton, my question for, I've had the opportunity to talk with you, and I think I understand it, but could you explain for those who may be wondering your committee's vision for the difference between a commercial or a teaching kitchen vis-a-vis why would, we do have several kitchens in our existing rooms, why those would not fit the need that you were envisioning?
Well, none of them have room for maybe 2 or 3 people. If you wanted to have a class and have 12, 15 people there, we don't have a facility that comes close to being adequate for that. So, again, I'll say I think that we called it a commercial kitchen originally when the Properties Committee was looking at this, but I believe that they had in mind that we need a place where we can do teaching. And then if we use it also as a commercial kitchen, that's fine, but we want to have a facility where we can hold classes. And a chartered club could then be formed.
If there's or not, it really would depend. So any other, yes, Director Piaskowski.
The other thing is, back in the day, we had, in the park, all of our pavilions couldn't handle more than 2 crock pots because it would blow a fuse. So maybe if we are thinking about a teaching kitchen, maybe what we need to do is see what the amps are in the kitchens that we have right now and say, yes, it can take 6 or 7 crock pots without blowing an amp, right? Because then maybe we would get people interested in starting a club. I mean, kind of just testing the water out, right? And saying, and then if there is a club being formed, you know, that's a whole nother issue, right? Because you have to have 75 people to start a club, and you have to have all these parameters. But you'd have to get the word out, right? Because the word right now is that we don't have anything that would accommodate. So,
But there might be other ways, if we wanted to, there might be other ways to explore that, even now.
yeah,
without,
and just making sure that our facilities can handle more than 1 or 2 crock pots.
When I heard the
before.
discussion at Properties Committee, it sounded as if the staff advisors and members of staff, if this went forward, would be looking at those to
Yeah.
evaluate, right? What's the best location? What are the options and so forth? Are there any other comments? Okay, so we'll go back to Director Turner and then to Director Schlemmer.
Yeah, I wouldn't be get too caught up on it has to be a chartered club. It could be go under the wings of another club, for example, as is already being done with Zymergy, or it could even be something which is managed directly by the association.
True.
Because if it is a chartered club, you're into things like participation rates. You need to find at least 4 officers. They need to be drawing up bylaws.
Yeah, there are plenty of activities that are being run by the association that are outside of our crafting clubs even.
Yes.
Our library runs some programs, et cetera. So,
Yeah.
good point. Director Schlemmer, you had your arm and hand raised.
Thank you, President Novello. The struggle I have in this really goes to an earlier comment that Director Turner raised. I think before we put this into the proposed budget that we will then vote on down the road, we should clarify exactly what we do mean, because I think there is too much of a difference between a commercial kitchen and a teaching kitchen. It sounds like from all of the commentary, what we're really talking about here is a teaching kitchen. But I think in order for it to go into the budget, the budget plan for 2026, 2027, I think we need to be more clear and less ambiguous, because that's much more of a specific budget proposal. So I would recommend that we either make that adjustment now, or if it has to go back to the committee for more clarity. But it sounds like to me that they're talking about a teaching kitchen, not a commercial kitchen. I think we need to clear that up. I do not have any concern that there is not currently a cooking club. I think that, to your point, build it and they will come. But I think we do have to be more clear.
Absolutely. Thank you. Any response to that, Director Chatton? Or?
No, I think we had an awful lot of discussion
Yes.
at our work session on this, and I would tend to call the question here.
Okay, very fun. Call the question means immediate vote, so that means no comments from the audience. So hold on a moment, please. I'll get advisory from our parliamentarian. So the parliamentarian was advising that the motion needs to be made and seconded. It was seconded by Director Schlemmer before we actually call the vote. So one more moment, please.
This is on calling the question.
Yes.
Need a second.
Oh, is that what you meant? Thank you. So,
So I move that we call the question.
do we have a second to that? Director Williams seconds it. So do we vote on that too? So we're voting now for the motion to call the question, starting with Director Williams. Yes, we're calling the question.
Yes.
Yes.
Director Forsey, you're next. This is just to call the question, which means ending all discussion. Yes.
Yes.
Beckner?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion to call the question passes, so we will now reread the original motion. Director Chatton.
Per Properties Committee recommendation, I move that the governing board consider adding a commercial/teaching kitchen to the capital improvement budget in the 26-27 budget financial plan.
Excellent, thank you. So this is a vote to include it in the budget, not a vote to approve the matter, right? Just to include it in the budget. So we will start with Director Turner.
No.
Schlemmer?
No.
Becknell?
No.
Chatton?
Yes.
No.
Okay. Pyskowski?
Yes.
Grom?
No.
No. Okay, so the motion fails. Therefore, the commercial or teaching kitchen concept is moved to the consideration of the master plan. Thank you, directors. We'll move on to new business now. I'm sorry, 3.02 under new business. Back to Director Turner should have brought me a Starbucks. I'm just saying, 3.02, back to you, Director Chatton.
Yes, thank you, President Novello. Per Properties Committee recommendation, I move that the governing board consider adding an R.H. Johnson platform tennis renovation to the capital improvement budget in the 26-27 budget financial plan.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Whoa. I don't know who, so Becknell is second, and I heard that one first. Thank you. So Director Chatton, again, long conversations last week. Please proceed with any explanation here.
Yes, I think that this was originally in the budget and was removed, and then the Properties Committee recommended that it get back into the budget. I think several of the board, those that were in on the Properties Committee had already seen the condition of those courts. They are terrible. And I think some of the board members were down there this morning to again look at it. And we also had some information that was emailed to us, each of the board members, I believe, with some reasons why we should have this renovation. So with that, I will, and we had a lot of discussion on this
Yes, we
again
did.
at the work session. With that, I will leave it.
Thank you. And I think it warrants, if you wouldn't mind explaining for us, Stephen, when we say it was removed, it was deferred, as I recall. But could you just, again, explain for those who are tuning in for the first time or here for the first time, what does that mean?
Sure. Thank you, President Novello. So when myself and the CFO, Cliff Swan, and I went looking at the different items that were on the list for capital projects for this year, knowing that we had actually moved this item from how many years down the road since?
It doesn't matter, several
A
years.
number of years.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was moved each time was because of waiting for master planning. So the thought process continued as, well, we should continue to hold off on this, just like we've held off on Kuntz, to have the master plan process completed so we can determine whether or not that's the best place for this, or is it in a better place or a different place, or what that would look like, so that we don't go through this process of renovation and then look back and say, oh, well, we should have held off because now we've done this, so obviously we're locked in. We're not going to want to change that. But so that was the reasoning behind removing it from the list in order to make sure that it was going to be the proper place and the proper thing to be done in that area.
All right, thank you. So again, as Director Chatton had explained for the last motion, just we'll repeat it. As we consider this, we are evaluating putting this back onto for consideration. It's not approving the concept. It's not approving the item in the budget. It's merely moving this back into our purview for this upcoming budget cycle, which is fiscal year 27, starting next 26-27. And if for any reason we do not approve it, it will follow that path that Stephen just outlined for us, and it will revert to the master plan. But again, I think a number of directors took the opportunity to see the platform tennis facility today. I don't know if anyone wants to offer any comments or questions. Director Schlemmer?
Thank you, President Novello. Myself, along with two other directors, did go and tour the facility this morning, largely to help educate, for me, it was largely to help educate me more on what this facility is and what exactly the issues are. I think this is a unique situation, and it's different from the motion we just discussed, because this is an existing facility within the community, and it is part of the tennis complex, which is very actively used by the community. And these courts are very clearly in disrepair. I do not believe that we should just simply move this to master plan. I do believe that we should keep it for consideration in the budget process, because as a board member, I am concerned when we are leaving a facility sitting in disrepair for an extended period of time. It's a little unique to the situation at Kuntz, because that facility really isn't actively in use by any chartered club, to my knowledge. This facility is. These courts do get used. About 10, per information from the tennis club, about 10 to 15% of their members do play platform tennis. There are currently 2 courts there of the 4 that can't be used well. One of them can't be used at all, and all 4 of them do need some level of repair. I'm not saying whether or not I would support that yet. I think it's still early. This information is still new to me, but I do want to have the ability to consider it and consider supporting it as part of the budget process. And then, as we've pointed out, if it doesn't succeed there, it does then move back to where it is currently proposed to be, which is as part of the master plan. So
Got it.
those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Director Schlemmer. this is a very different opportunity than what we just talked about. There is a very specific scope, and it's understood what the request is for, as I understand it. Any other, yes, Director Piaskowski?
Okay, so I am a tennis member and I play tennis. And yes, getting back to Kuntz, we didn't want it, pickleball didn't want it, so that's why that went crazy. Platform tennis, we also have a new sport with tennis. It's called red ball. It is really kicking, I mean, everyone loves it that cannot play tennis any longer. A lot of pickleball people are coming over to play it because it's a much easier sport. Those 4 courts that they redo, the platform tennis, those can be used for red ball. So they would also be platform and tennis. So red ball, I should say, just
Okay.
a FYI for you guys.
Thank you. Director Williams?
Yes, I fully support taking action now. Why delay a serious accident 3 years just to see what's in a master plan? I think that is negligence on the part of this board to be made aware of something in this condition and not take appropriate action at the time, not wait 3 years till somebody falls, has a lawsuit and sues us, and then say, oh, gee, I wonder what the master plan would say about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Williams. Any other comments or questions? Director Becknell?
I support taking care of this court situation sooner than later. Today was the first time that I ever actually went down and spent time at the tennis courts and learned about platform tennis, and I was absolutely amazed. To me, our whole tennis court situation in platform tennis is kind of a pearl hidden by an oyster because we don't really advertise it. We haven't tried to build it out, and that could be part of the master plan. But fixing these courts is the primary consideration that has to be done first because there is a lot of stuff that could be done there that the master plan could consider how to expand upon that and to leverage that space to more of our residents. It would make fantastic meeting space for tons of different opportunities. I mean, it's an incredible space. I was just stunned by it today. So I would say, please fix the courts.
Well, again, we're evaluating just putting it into our purview to consider, so thanks for the plea. It was also brought to our attention via apologies for, how did I forget this? We approved as a board the notion of being able to host a pretty major regional tournament that will be coming into Sun City West in 2027. That was a reminder that I really did appreciate. So this is something, the conditions of our facility will be on full display by a national organization. So just as a reminder for me, thank you for reminding me. Any other comments from directors? Director Turner?
Yeah, I just want to echo Director Williams' comment as that there's a safety issue here as well. 2 of the courts are not usable. If we if you have to shut down the second 2, when it becomes embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Excuse me, any other comments or questions from directors? Director Forsey?
Where there currently a concern, is there a way to push this even more forward than 26, 27 to get things brought up to date at an earlier time, or is there budget money that could be done for that?
There is no budget money currently allocated. It would have to be a safety issue that would come up through a facts and findings through the general manager would bring that to us for consideration. When I say there's no budget money, it's not in the current year budget, so that's how it would go forward. And I would presume, based on what we know so far, it's well over the $50,000 limit. So it would be something that we could consider. It would have to come out of those allowance funds. Yes, Director Becknell.
Didn't we just discuss that we have put off the repair and maintenance of this platform tennis for a couple of years? So the money is obviously out there in the capital budget from before. We just haven't approved it as such. Is that correct, or am I missing something there?
I don't believe it came up and was removed, to my knowledge, and again, I'll defer to Cliff on that, but regardless, there's no current line item. That's what I meant by there's no current line item, but it's not as if if this was an issue that we needed to tackle right away, the method we would use would be a proposal through using our allowance funds if there's enough funds available.
Yes, correct. So we have it on the reserve study, and the funds are reserved through the reserve fund, but they're not budgeted. So that's a whole separate process, the budgeting of those funds. Sounds like they've been operating with 2 courts that are in good enough condition to handle their platform tennis play. So we can certainly close the 2 that are in disrepair and start the project as soon as possible in 2026.
If we had that, and to
If it moves forward, and
Yeah,
yes.
to the best of your memory, Cliff, I don't recall this being actively removed through that process that we've affectionately dubbed the pullouts process, but I don't remember it being in a budget and actively deferred. I believe it was originally positioned for repair and replace this year, but I could be wrong.
Yes, so it was positioned for this year.
And we removed it.
Yes, and it's not just a resurfacing, which is why it's a big project. But, the board wants to move forward with it, we can certainly do that.
So the governing board removed it from this current year budget?
No, we removed it operationally.
No, so in other words, for the upcoming budget year, it was scheduled and therefore pulled it, when you were pulling together the CIP list for our evaluation for 26, 27.
Yes, it was, when we were assessing that list throughout the
Gotcha,
process.
understood.
Yep.
What I was asking, I'm sorry for the confusion, again, apparently caffeine deprived today, but I wanted to know, I could not remember the governing board taking an action to remove it from the 24-25 budget or the 25-26 budget. I don't believe we did, but it was scheduled to be done this year in the next budget. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, directors? Any comments or questions from in the room? We do have a resident coming to the microphone.
Larry Plaster, 130627. I am the president of the tennis club. And I just want to say I appreciate all the discussion, and I appreciate the members of the board that came down to look at the platform tennis courts today. I provided the information that you received by email that are the facts. I think there's 2 important things to consider. First of all, we need to show that we're using those courts, and we are. As Director Schlemmer said, about 30% of our approximately 500 tennis club members are using that facility on a regular basis, and it is increasing as we add red ball. We have red ball playing in there, and we've made some changes that are getting us more platform tennis players. One of the unfortunate things is this sport came from the East Coast. The platform tennis courts were actually the first court sport here when Del Webb built this, because he came from the East Coast. When a resident from the East Coast comes here to play platform tennis, they're disappointed because of the state of these courts is so bad. There's dead spots, there's cracks, the screens are not tensioned properly. You can't play it the way it should be played, but we still enjoy it, and a lot of us do play it. So point number 1, yes, we are using it. Secondly, it's not in the category of the other 2 items proposed here, or Kuntz. Kuntz doesn't have a real plan yet. Maybe it needs to go into the master plan, so we figure that out. We don't need a plan here. It's existing. We need it fixed, and it detracts. We have a world-class tennis facility, but those courts, if anybody takes a close look, detracts from that facility. And, people come here and look at that and say, hey, is this the way that we maintain things here at Sun City West? Hopefully it's not. So the tennis club strongly supports keeping this in the budget consideration, And if we can move it forward, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Plaster, for your comments. We do have a couple of comments online. Are there any other comments in the room before we go to online? So let's read them one at a time, please. Director Forsey?
This one, I'm not sure the actual name, but it's 5011 Bubba Dude. Their question is, has there been any decision on charging credit fees for rec dues?
I'm sorry, yeah, I'll answer, directors, thank you. So in this particular case, we do need, for anybody who wants to comment online, we would like your name and rec card number for the future, but just to answer this one, that's something that we'll be considering during the budget process next year.
The second one is from Mary Gannett. If the tennis courts are in disarray and need repair, it needs to be taken care of sooner than later. We don't want people tripping or falling.
Thank you for your comment, Mary. I appreciate that. Any other comments or questions? So seeing none and none from the directors, please reread the motion, Director Chatton.
Per Properties Committee recommendation, I move that the governing board consider adding an R.H. Johnson platform tennis renovation to the capital improvement budget in the 26-27 budget/financial plan.
Thank you, Director Chatton. As a reminder, a yes vote merely puts this back into the budget for consideration. It does not approve the concept or decline the concept for that matter. We'll start with Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Grom? Yes. Pryskowski?
Yes.
Director Forsey?
Yes.
Director Chatton?
Yes.
Director Becknell?
Yes, please.
Director Schlemmer?
So formal. Yes.
Director Turner?
Yes.
Thank you. So the yeses have it. We will evaluate this matter in our regular capital project. Thank you, directors. We'll move on now to item 3.03. And the star of the show is Director Chatton. So we have one more. Thank you, Director Chatton. And even I'm laughing. Yes.
All right, per Properties Committee recommendation, I move that the governing board consider adding an R.H. Johnson courtyard renovation to the capital improvement budget in the 26-27 budget financial plan.
Do I have a second? I second it. Seconded by Director Forsey. Director Chatton, a quick explanation, please.
Well, we spent an hour on this at the work session.
That's why,
so
just a quick summary.
Quick explanation may not be possible, but I think for those that went on the properties tour, the one thing that really stood out at the various places we went was kind of what I would call the wow factor and how beautiful they were. And a lot of it were the outside areas that people could congregate, the furnishings, the landscaping. It was just beautiful. And then we come back here and we love our facilities here, but they really do need some updating. So one of the things that the Properties Committee wanted to include was a renovation. It's hard to explain everything that this renovation would include. I think that getting it into the budget process is the primary thing. I think the committee can work with staff to determine what this renovation looks like. On the north side of the social hall, that would be a prime area to have additional outside area for people to congregate and meet. Our courtyard going into the admin offices out here and lapidary and these other charter clubs needs a lot of improvement. And if you go on the north side of this courtyard area, it could be fabulous, overlooking bocce ball and the pool. And anyway, there's a lot of things that could be considered in this renovation, but it would be in this R.H. Johnson area. And we would sincerely like to have this in the budget so we can get moving on this.
So and again, we had lots of commentary about this in last week's meeting, but are there any comments or questions, directors? Okay. Anything from our residents? We do have a resident stepping to the microphone.
Good morning. My name is Ron Petrin. As one of the 27,000 members of the population of this community, we're paying for the master plan. And I really am pushed towards using the master plan to decide. This is a big area. The master plan could say we need to expand the village meeting room, increase some spaces there. We talked, there was talk at some of the meetings about putting in a coffee shop, putting in a bar kind of area for us to lounge. And I think to spend money to fix this may interfere with the master plan's overall use of the facility. I'm okay with buying furniture. We can always use furniture someplace else. Maybe a little paint, redo the mural on the wall, but I think before we do any major construction in that area, we need to look and see what the needs of the community are. Thank you.
Thank you. Any response from Director Chatton? When you were envisioning this, did you go that far in the Properties Committee or no? I believe, again, you answered this last week, but just for Mr. Petrin's edification.
Well, we haven't had a Properties Committee meeting since these were moved forward. I would guess, just my opinion, that the Properties Committee would rather see something done sooner rather than later. I think when we go to other communities and see what they have and how they do wow people, we're missing that factor. So we're competing with all these other communities for residents, and we thought it was important that this get moved forward now. If it goes to I agree with the concept of the master planning process. I'm all for the master planning process. But I also believe that some things shouldn't be kicking the can down the road. If it goes to the master planning process, it's going to take at least a year. And then there'll be budget recommendations for those things that we should include, and those will go down another year or two. So anything that we defer now to the master planning process, we have to understand that it's probably not going to be looked at for at least 3 years. So those are my comments.
Or at least some period of time. I hear what you're saying. Director Becknell?
I agree with Mr. Chatton that, and with Mr. Petrin, that buying the furniture and doing the facelift that we talked about last week would be most critical to be done now so we can reestablish part of that wow factor that we are so sorely missing from the community. The master plan should be considered more with regards to expanding space, knocking out walls, building walls, doing things like that. But I got a funny feeling that it wouldn't take a lot to buy the furniture and maybe pay for a coffee cart to show up out in the courtyard, you know, for so many hours a day or something to make it a nice coffee type spot drop in. And so I think it needs to be kept in the budget.
Some manner, we don't have a scope definition of this, right? But some manner of renovation is, I believe, if I'm hearing you correctly. Before I move to a resident who's at the microphone, I wasn't looking to my right, so I just wanted to make sure. So thanks, directors. Back to our residents, please.
Good morning. Jim Scott, 404675. I sit on the Properties Committee, and the intent was pretty much as Director Becknell stated. It was more of a facelift. We all agree with Mr. Pedron. It was never intended to do a full-on wipe out the east wing and put in a ballroom kind of a deal. It was to give it a facelift, some furniture, maybe a paint job. The mural, the folks that put that mural up back in the day did a beautiful job, but we need another mural would certainly be nice. And there was discussion, I believe, with Director, please forgive me for mispronouncing, Pitowski. We talked about maybe putting a fountain in there in the courtyard area, but nothing of major significance. So I just wanted to kind of bring this back in and corral it and keep the cat in the box. This is really just a doll it up some. And as the master plan process comes in, maybe we'll reimagine it and really take it to another level in the future. But it was pretty much for just kind of bring it up to snuff for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Any other comments or questions before we call for a vote, directors? We're clear then on the intention of what we're voting on, I imagine. So Director Chatton, one more time, please. Could you please reread your motion?
Yes. Per Properties Committee recommendation, I move that the governing board consider adding an R.H. Johnson courtyard renovation to the capital improvement budget in the 26-27 budget financial plan.
So we'll start then for the vote on this one with Director Turner.
No.
Director Schlemmer?
Yes.
Director Becknell?
Yes.
Director Chatton?
Yes.
Director Forsey?
Yes.
Director Piaskowski?
Yes.
Director Grum?
No.
Director Williams?
Yes.
The ayes do have it, and thank you, directors. All this does is moves a budget item into our purview for consideration. It does not approve the concept. Okay, so thank you, directors. And thank you to our residents for your comments. Appreciate them, as always. Move on now to our next item of new business, which is our it's our governing board election that's coming up in 2026. Last week, the governing board received copies, hard copies of 3 documents that the election committee has put together for this upcoming governing board election, which will take place in March. So we have 3 documents that we've looked at in hard copy, petitioner packet, an election guide, and candidate orientation. Director Turner will make the motion for our discussion.
I move that the governing board approve the 2026 candidate petitioner packet, election guide, and candidate orientation documents as presented at the December 12th governing board workshop.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Williams. So you are not the authority on the contents of this, so thank you for making the motion, Director Turner. It's really important that we understand that this is in our policies and bylaws, the governing board adopts these materials for use in the upcoming election. Governing board does stay pretty much, steps back a bit from direct involvement in running the election. That's why we have a special committee. But nonetheless, just wanted us to be aware of all the materials and therefore agree to adopt them. So that's the motion on the floor. The chairperson of our special committee on the governing board election is Kathy Estes. So Kathy, if you can just be prepared to answer any questions that may arise. Let's look first at the petitioner packet. I guess we can look at them one at a time. Any questions or concerns from the directors on the petitioner packet?
No.
Director Grum?
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments. First is on page 5 in the very first paragraph. We refer to it, last part of that first paragraph, 9 residents. I think we ought to make it very clear that it's 9 owner members, not just residents. And then additionally, down in about the middle of the page, the paragraph that starts out with the word additionally, owner members interested in running must collect 200 validated signatures. Those two must be owner member signatures. I mean, granted, they have to be validated, but they have to be owner member signatures. And then moving on to the same thing, page 9, down near the bottom, you must submit 200 verifiable signatures. I think it ought to make it very clear, those are owner member signatures. And then that third bullet, this is more of a question. We talk about the circulators, the people that are doing the petitions. We say they must be owner members. Is there some reason we say that? It's nowhere in any policy or anything that you have to be an owner member to hand out, do the petitions. I'm just questioning it because we say it then on page 10 also, the circulator requirements you must be an owner member, but to do the circulator. It's more of a question. Do we want to say that, or can the circulator be anyone?
That's a question for Kathy. Can you enlighten, just on that last question, and then we'll go back to the changes.
I really don't have an answer to that, Director Grom. As far as I know, that has always been one of the requirements, that the circulator has to be an owner member. I don't see a problem with it having to be an owner member.
Director Piaskowski? Well, I wanted to ask Director Grom first if he had a follow-up.
No, I necessarily don't have a problem. I'm just questioning why we're making that requirement. And if it's the fact, then it makes it easier to validate who the circulator was, I would understand that. But I'm saying there's nothing requiring us to have that requirement.
Exactly. I think what we're looking at here, it's something that although our policies and bylaws do say that we adopt this is the first time that we're aware of that the governing board has actually had the opportunity to review these documents. So in this case, and we all dread the statement, well, it's always been done this way. I think this is something that perhaps the election committee cannot answer for because they're using a document that and making some other updates to it. So just so you know. Now, Director Piaskowski.
Yeah, I would think the reason it says that the circular has to be an owner member is because you have to be an owner member to sign it. When I was running, you get those signatures, and what happens is you ask for the card, right, to see, and they're like, oh, shoot, it's a red line. But you don't tell them that they can't sign because you don't want to be like rude, so you let them sign. But as the person that's getting those signatures, they know that that signature is not going to be valid, right? Because it's an associate or a tenant member. So that's why I think they have that in there, that you have to be an owner member.
And again, I since none of us created it, we don't know. But I personally, I don't have a problem with the specification.
President Novella?
Yes, I'm just looking in one direction at a time. I was not going to call the question.
I have an answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you for answering.
Appendix 1A of the bylaws, which is the copy of the signature that the circulator must sign. The first sentence is I, name, an owner member in good standing.
Thank you for giving us the answer.
So in order to collect signatures, the person who is collecting signatures has to validate that they're
Per our
an owner
bylaws.
member.
That's our answer.
Very good. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Director Grom, I'm sure, appreciates that as well, right? So that's the answer that you were looking for. So back to the updates that Director Grom had suggested here to clarify that the members are, to make those changes. Is there any problem with those?
Not where it says a resident. I have no problem changing that to owner member in the situations that he mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
As far as validating the signatures, part of that is to ensure that it is an owner member, and it says that on the petition that it has to be an owner member. So I don't know that I would change that.
So we're looking at, when I was looking at it, I had 1, 2, Director Grom had noted 1, 2, 3 areas where he was recommending inserting or updating. So the insertions would be on page 5. Must first collect 200 member validated signatures. So
Yes.
that's that addition, as well as, it might,
Right.
again, it might be a bit duplicative, but it's okay. Anytime we're saying validated signatures, I think there are a couple of other spots, right? Where it's 200 validated owner-member signatures. So it's
Mhm.
just sort of reinforcing that.
Okay,
Is
I
it-
don't have a problem with that.
That's so, and again, I'm going to look behind me to our executive assistant to make sure that we're capturing, I have notes here as well. Are those the kinds of changes that it would be, we can pass those on to you, right?
Yes.
So are there any other suggestions, changes, comments on the petitioner packet? Director Becknell?
This affects the current packet, the petitioner packet, as well as the other packets. It's the timeline. Is there a reason why we can't condense that timeline from being so lengthy? Maybe having the vote happen earlier in March and moving some of these deadlines up so that it doesn't last for what seems an eternity?
5 months. That's how long it lasts. No, there is not a reason other than there are some bylaws that would have to be changed as far as dates, because the bylaws require petitioners to be able to pick up the packets the first business day in November. I think you could easily condense it to 3 months. Start January 1 through the end of March. If you back out, if you have your election the last Monday in March, then you can back that out really, so that if you pick up a packet 1st of January, you have January to get your petitions signed, 200 signatures, that there are more people here. It should not be a difficult thing to do. Then the first week in February, you have orientation, you have photos, you have your video done, then you can start campaigning. So you've got 3 weeks in February and another 3 weeks in March before you have your candidate forum, your meet and greet, and then after your meet and greet, online voting starts for a week. That ends on a Thursday, and voting is the next Monday. In-person voting is the next Monday.
So once there's an actual formulated recommendation, I know that the Kathy and her committee have brought this up and considered it. Once there's an actual recommendation from that committee, we can vote on that and take action. For this year's election, the dates are set, as you mentioned, right? So it is something that we could consider as a recommendation from the committee. But right now, we're just looking at the packets for this year's election, but it's a good suggestion. Other comments? Director Piaskowski?
Okay, since we have to change the bylaw, should they
Yes.
not have to bring this to us so we can get that on the election in this March, so then it can happen next year? So,
That would be my understanding. You would
Right.
have to, by January, you would have to vote to change the bylaws, because that
And
would
then
be
put it
on-
out to
need
vote in
be
the current.
approved for then the following year.
Mhm.
And I see Karen shaking her head. So
so I guess we
the
need to.
timeline, I think, is what would be in question, correct?
So, hold on just a moment. I believe we still have time to do that, to publish it, and to put it into the March 30th election.
Okay.
That's-
Is Karen shaking her head? Okay, no, she's saying yes. So,
Election work.
forward that to us if you wish, right, so that we can take action on that in our
will do that.
upcoming. I know that you've mentioned it to me, and I believe your committee has talked about it. So we would be, we'll look for that recommendation. We'll take action on it.
We have an election committee meeting early January.
Perfect.
We'll make sure that's done.
Perfect. Thank you for that, and thanks for the suggestion, Director Becknell. Any other questions on the petitioner packet? So we'll move on. We'll say candidate orientation. Are there any comments, questions from directors on that one? Director Pyskowski.
On page 3, it says, it talks about chartered clubs not allowed to invite or allow candidates in their campaign and use their mailing list and that. I strongly believe that we should also include non-chartered clubs in that verbiage. I know that they're not chartered, except for those non-chartered clubs are mostly RCSCW residents, and they do have mailing lists. And if you are a candidate and I belong to the Nebraska Club, I can use their mailing list, and I'm not in violation.
So, I'm going to look first to Director Turner as the chair of our chartered clubs, because you're closer to the RRMPs than many of us are. I know RRMPs only dictate and govern our chartered clubs, but in terms of non-chartered, would inserting this language cause some confusion?
We can't, but the RRMPs only apply to chartered clubs, so you can't make a change in the RRMPs to do this.
Oh, no, that's,
Yeah.
that was not my intention, I'm sorry. Would there be any challenge to updating if the committee agreed, would there be any challenge from a chartered club's perspective, from your purview, adding in non-chartered clubs to the election guide?
No.
So
And the
that-
RRMPs currently state that the mailing lists of chartered clubs can only be used for chartered club activity.
Right. So back to you then, Kathy, to answer Director Pyskowski. Is this something that you think this can be added in? Would you consider it? Is it something that you need to bring back to your committee?
I will bring it back to the committee. My concern is infringing on the rights of other clubs that are non-chartered clubs.
So, so then, if this has to go back to the committee, Director Pyskowski, I understand the intention. Is it important enough to defer the approval of all these documents in your view? If so, we'll look for consensus from the rest of the directors.
Yes, because most of our I don't know how many clubs we have, Nick, in non-chartered, 12?
There's about 12 or 14
12,
listed
14.
on the Sun City West
So-
website, but there are...
There are others as well.
There
There's
are
others
others as
too.
well. yeah.
I mean, that aren't a non-chartered. So it really, if we can say non-chartered and chartered clubs,
Right, but the answer back from the chairperson is that she would need to return this document to her committee for evaluation. So my question to you was, if it's important, if it's an all-starter for you, I'm just going to quickly poll because we need consensus from all the directors to hold up the process. So I just want to make sure, quick consensus, any objections to returning this document to the elections committee? Any objections to that?
no.
It means that we can't we can't hold candidate orientation until this comes back to the governing board. Any,
I just would like to ask Kathy if
That's
that has
scheduled
any
for the week of
implications for the whole...
January the 14th. Candidate orientation is January 14th. When is your next meeting?
that would be on January the 9th, our workshop.
A workshop. So
We wouldn't
I
do
don't
the
think
regular vote
there's-
until the 18th.
I don't think
so-
there's time to change that for this year.
Okay. So in light of that, we would have to reschedule the already scheduled candidate orientation directors. I understand and appreciate what you're bringing up, Director Pyskowski, but I would rather us move forward on the date personally. So one more time, in light of that information, the fact that this would delay the process, do we have any, Director Williams?
I think you're doing it at the wrong time. This has already started. People have already picked up their packets, getting their signatures. I think it's fine to change it for the year following. I think it is a mistake to change it and try to change it at this late date and set it off schedule. So I would not support that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, directors, including Director Pyskowski, I would agree. I would like to see us defer this for consideration in a future. It's great that we have the opportunity to see and comment, but I don't want to see us hold up the election process. any objections with us moving forward, even in light of Director Piaskowski's concerns? Director Grom?
I mean, I don't have an objection to moving it forward, but I do have a couple of comments on things that are currently in there that,
Oh, okay, so other comments, but I just wanted to settle this one question. Okay, so go ahead, Director Grom.
okay, a similar thing, page 2, under the rec centers of Sun City West Governing Board, it says comprised of 9 residents, simple change, 9 owner members. And then the third bullet, I think, is a bit misleading in the sense that it says, the board sets policies under which the association operates and is advisory in nature. I really don't believe that's a truthful statement in the sense that that is not why we're here. That is not what we do. You can go right to the bylaws, and we provide oversight, for the management and operation of the association. So I just think that the word advisory is a bit weak, and we should look at possibly changing it or simply deleting it. And then one other comment is on page 4. The first paragraph there talks again about designated common area. I don't think as a board we ever decided on what is really designated common area. I know we have some signs around the community, but I don't know that,
Okay.
it needs changing right now, but at some point in the future, I think we should look at it. And if we're going to have designated common area, then that definition we ought to add into our documents officially, not just post signs.
So it's very hard to manage comments that are multiples like that. So I'm going to go back to your first one. So the first is the same sort of update on page 2, comprised of 9 owner members. I don't think there'd be a challenge with
Not a
that.
problem.
As for the other thing where we're talking about the board really is not simply advisory in nature. My suggestion is that remove the second part of the sentence and simply say the board sets the policies under which the association operates, and delete the remainder of the sentence. Any concerns with that, Kathy?
No,
Board?
no, you can move that. This is talking about the governing board.
Right, and
What
we are
their
not
governing
simply
board
advisory in
does, not
nature,
in
but
relation
that's okay.
necessarily
But
to
rather
the
than get into it, the
election.
bylaws defines what the board is, and this
Yeah,
is,
sure.
that would just,
I don't see a problem with that.
and where was the last one, Director Grom?
Excuse me, the first part of page 4.
Designated common area. We do have, we have a policy that sets forth where we can actually campaign and not campaign, and our operations team has defined what a designated common area is. I don't think we need a policy defining what the operations team has implemented on our direction, because we have a policy that says we will designate common areas for this purpose. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Oh, and there's state statutes, Stephen was reminding me as well. That's what defines this, so we don't even need to. So I think we're okay on that one. What do you think, Director Grom?
I'm fine with leaving it.
It's improvements for the future perhaps, but I think we're covered for now. Any other concerns, directors? Director Turner?
Yeah, I've just been looking at the authorized use of association common areas for association-specific political activity, which defines the areas where you can campaign. I think we just need to phrase that as designated common area instead of it says now specific common area, just so the terminology is correct, is aligned between the two.
So we could just align the terminology. Good suggestion. We're going to move on to the petitioner packet.
Election guide.
Well, the title is, oh, did I already go? I'm sorry. You're right. We already did that. Coffee. I need coffee. Election guide last but not least. So directors, I'm going to look, Director Grom, I know that you've noted a number of the areas. Have you highlighted? There are a couple in this too, I think, right? I can't remember exactly where they are, but do you have those highlighted for Karen or for?
Okay, thank you. In the, we are looking at the election guide.
Yeah.
On page 3, I don't know if we need clarification, but under eligibility to vote, it says suspended or revoked. I mean, there is a difference. We can suspend your use of the facilities, but that person still has the right to vote, I believe. Is that correct? We
No.
we can suspend
This
the
has
right
come
to
up, this has
use-
come up in the past. If a member is suspended, they are not able to vote.
Okay, so if they're suspended, is the same as revoking.
Revoked is permanent, in terms of my
Okay, so
understanding.
for
Suspension
purposes-
means it's temporary.
Okay. For purposes of that sentence, that first paragraph under eligibility to vote, suspended or revoked have the proper meaning in this sense. You lose the right to vote.
Correct.
Okay, good enough. The next paragraph down, owner members are characterized as either owners or investors. We really have no such definition of an investor because the only difference in an investor is the way you vote. You can't vote online because you have multiple properties. So I don't believe we actually have investors in this community. What we have is owners with multiple properties. Because in theory, you can even be an investor with just one property, but that doesn't mean you vote differently. And that word investor is on page 3, and it is also on page 5, right near the bottom. So I'm just saying, I think that's misleading by introducing a term that is not defined anywhere else.
Yeah, and I know I've asked in the past, but just to get clarification from our general manager or anyone on the staff, I don't believe we have a special designation in our records that would identify an owner member. We have different classes of ownership. We have owner member, different classes of membership, owner member, associate member, and tenant. Right? So do we identify anybody differently? Do we have an investor category in our records?
Yeah, so one of the things we want to clarify for sure is that the voting of people that are considered investors, that they can vote online. So maybe if you can kind of run us through that, Katie.
Sure. Per the bylaws, there's only 2 classes of membership, an owner and an associate. Internally, we do classify owners. Also, they can be investors. By definition, it means they own more than one property. And that's an internal definition. It's an internal process. So we can then tie those properties together in the computer system. So when they vote, and they can vote online, it counts twice if they have 2 homes, 3 times if they have 3. So it's a way for us to organize and classify it in the program. And this is, again, is the voting guide for the volunteers on the committee working that day. So when someone comes in and their card looks different, or they say, I have more than one property, they can understand the definitions and treat them appropriately for their voting.
Does their card look different? I didn't realize that we had any longer a special designation on a card it says investor.
So they should really only have their owner card. They used to issue physical cards for your second, third property. Now they don't issue them because we have them all tied together in the computer system. But some have, given the wrong number, mine has a -02, even though they don't have a physical card. So again, just internal processes, they present it, they say I own more than one property. We classify them as investors and handle it a little bit differently in the voting area.
One way to consider possibly handling this challenge might be at the start of in this eligibility to vote paragraph, page 3, eligibility to vote section, for the purposes of voting, comma, owner members are categorized as. Because otherwise it implies that we have a different categorization of membership and we don't. What do you think of that? And I don't know if Kathy and the committee would agree. I'm just wondering if that would help.
I agree in the sense that this guide is for our elections committee and our voters, essentially. What you do internally, operational-wise, is your set of operations, but I don't know if it needs to be translates into this document. I would be happy with just leaving it as owners, or if we want to add owners with multiple properties. To me, that would be clear. They're still owners, but there's a special voting technique for them. That's all I'm getting at, just to be very clear.
So how do we solve this in a manner that's going to address the concern, right? Because the first sentence in that paragraph could imply that we have a different designation. But for the purposes of the election, investors receive 1 vote for each property they own, right? So the second sentence is fine. Or what do you believe? How do we what's your proposal on rectifying this so we can move forward?
So The computer system does identify a person as an investor.
Right, but we don't identify them as an association any differently. It's the way that we've set this up for record keeping, which does, to me, make sense, right? And I understand. But for the purposes of this guide, we don't want to imply that there's a different category or class of membership. I believe that's,
Could you
We're
just?
good?
No.
I'm saying, what? So the first sentence of that paragraph, I think, is what's, and all the references to investors. Director Grom, what do you think in terms of how do we solve?
I mean, I would either leave it as investors, and if you want to then say owner investors really receive 1 vote for each property they own. Owners with multiple properties.
Yeah.
That would mean you get more than 1 vote. You're not an investor necessarily, but owners with multiple properties.
So changing the word in the second sentence of that paragraph from simply investors to say, for the purposes of the election, comma, owner members or owners receive 1 vote for each property they own. Is that what you're proposing? Is that your proposal, though? So now back to Kathy.
Okay. I'm not sure what that accomplishes, but if you're more comfortable with that, if you would write it out for me and give it to me, then I'll take it back to my committee. I don't have a problem with it. I just want to make sure I've got it exactly the way that you think it needs to be. I think this is clear. I mean, investors are owners who own more than 1 home.
So this would return it to the committee. So I'm going to look for consensus. I'm getting some comments from my left, your right. So I'll look for consensus on holding this up and returning it to committee. So it sounds like we have a few objections. Is that correct, Director Forsey? It sounds like you believe this is clear enough as it is.
I do believe it's clear enough. It says, owners or investors. Investors are owners who own more than 1 home. I mean, that's pretty.
So again, we don't
straight.
have to, let's just look for consensus. I'm sorry to interrupt everybody. So you would say, you believe it's clear. Director Chatton?
I think it's fine the way it is.
And I think we had Director Pecknell, where you were raising your,
I think it's clear the way it's written.
okay.
President Novello, I believe I should be quiet during this conversation as I'm a candidate potential candidate in the next election.
Thank you. Director Turner?
I believe it's okay as is. I think for next year, maybe it can be tidied up, but it doesn't affect the election or who
Okay.
can vote.
Yes or no? Is it clear enough as it is?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Director Williams, what do you think? Okay. Director Grom, I think we know where you are.
Well, I'm fine with the fact that we discussed it, and potentially we'll look at it in the future.
Okay. Director Pyskowski? Great. So moving on, and you had any others and that you had, Director Grom? I think it was all related to the other comment you had was the same comment about investor language. How about any other concerns or comments, directors, on this election guide? We lost Director Schlemmer for a moment, but that's okay. So, so seeing no other comments, are there any comments or questions from any of our residents here or online? Nothing online. So, so the motion, if we could go back to the motion, Director Turner, could you reread the motion, please?
I move that the governing board approve the 2026 candidate petitioner packet, election guide, and candidate orientation documents as presented at the December 12th governing board workshop.
Thank you. We'll take a quick vote then. We'll start with Director Williams. Yes. Director Grom?
Yes.
Yes.
Director Forsey?
Yes.
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 We'll consider Director Schlemmer an abstention, and the motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And again, you've been very patient with us. I just want to note that we appreciate the fact that we've had the opportunity to weigh in on and adopt these documents, and very much appreciate that.
I just have one comment. This
Please.
is a guide for the volunteers who are working at the election on that day. So that's something to keep in mind. But thank you all for taking the time to review these documents and for your input. I appreciate it.
Thank you again also for volunteering, to you and to your committee, to your co-chair. We appreciate all the time that you're putting in. It will be a long several more months, as you mentioned, but we'll look for a recommendation from you guys in terms of a change in timeline, and we'll make the requisite updates. We'll look for that in January. Moving on. Hold on just a moment. We're standing at ease. Thanks, we're back. I just needed to answer a few questions from the advisory table. So the questions were about the nature of the question of what we just agreed to do. These are good to go. No need to go back to committee. There are a few minor changes that we'll make sure we get in before moving forward. The other question that we've had internally is how to publish these and make them available. They will be made available to our owner member residents. We'll discuss how that's going to happen and when, what makes sense, just so you are all aware of what was happening off to the side. Moving on to 3.05. This is deferred. We moved this from last week to this week. So let's start talking a little bit, give you a quick update on the strategic plan and the master plan. We're very fond of using the terms that the governing board is the what, and our operations team, our staff they define the why. So in this case, the strategic plan and master plan are very closely tied together, and there's a bit of gray between them. So that's why we're going to consider them together. The governing board really owns and adopted the strategic plan. We started that process last year. That's our guiding light, our overall vision. It sets forth what's most important to us and our overall priorities. So the team has been working very hard at implementing some of the action items that we all agreed to last year and that we approved as a governing board. What we're going to hear starting in January, this governing board will hear an update, and the community will as well. Where do we stand on those action items? What's been completed? What's still left to complete? Where do we stand on completing the 25, 26 action items? We'll also consider in January what we've marked out to do for our 26-27 year in terms of the strategic plan action items. So the governing board has a special meeting, a training session on the strategic plan coming up in January 14th, I believe. That will be posted so that you're all aware. But this is something that we'll go through the strategic plan process as a governing board and make sure we're all comfortable with the status of what's currently underway, and make sure that we are also comfortable with the items that are earmarked or identified, and that Stephen and his team are aware of what's important to us in the 26-27 year and can put forward budget estimations as appropriate. So that's very high level where we stand with strategic plan and timing. The next major update to the strategic plan will be done by the governing board in our next fiscal year, just so that we're all aware as well of the timing. So we're doing if you will, an internal update, but we're not going to do a substantial update to the strategic plan until probably sometime, well, definitely sometime in the following fiscal year, in the 26-27 fiscal year. So that's the quick update on the strategic plan. For Stephen, you can give us you've mentioned this a number of times, lots of focus on our master plan as well. So where do we stand on that, Stephen?
Yeah, thank you, President Novello. So and also just to add on the strategic plan, so the mid-year update, which is, I believe, the 15th.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Did I say I apologize.
No, you're right on your date. I wasn't.
Oh, yours. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
yes.
The mid-year update will be focused around the strategic plan items. So that'll be an opportunity for folks to find out where we're at with those items for this current fiscal year as well. So, and then the master plan, yes, we as we've talked about, we've assigned that, we've awarded that contract. The governing board did go on some tours here a couple weeks ago, and we were fortunate enough to be able to get things in place just in time in order for the consultants to join us for that. And then the consultants will actually be kicking off with a presentation at the January 9th governing board workshop to kind of get things kicked off and going from there. They also will, I believe, and I'm looking to, who's not here, Sabrina, I was going to say, I believe that they're going to be also making some, having some interactions on the same day on the 15th during that, Katie's shaking her head, so I'm getting confirmation of that. So at the mid-year and also at around the time period with the MAG presentation that's going to happen that day as well at noon, the consultants will be interacting with community members at that point as well. So it is up and running, and there'll be many, as I've said many times, there'll be many opportunities for engagement. The board will be updated. Again, it'll be kicked off on the January 9th workshop, and the board will be updated as part of the contract for the consultants to come back and provide updates to the governing board as we go through this process and as they engage with the members of the community. And you know, eventually, once they've gathered all the community engagement and all the data, then they provide the drafts, and eventually the governing board will adopt that, hopefully early part of fall of next year.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So, directors, this is top of mind for our residents and for us. Any questions or things that you want to add about the master plan? We'll start with Director Becknell.
I just want to clarify with Stephen that come January, we will be having governing board workshops and/or governing board meetings where the status and the progress of the master plan will be presented in this public type forum where it'll be recorded and people will be able to hear it and see it and watch it down the road. So there won't be multiple lines of communication. Everything's going to be spoken out through this meeting. Is that correct?
Right, so that'll be the kickoff, and where that, and I was reminded, where the landing place for all the information related to the master plan will be masterplan.suncitywest.com, and that website, I believe, is up now, but that'll be continued to be added on. So that's going to be the place for folks to engage, the place to get information about upcoming engagement events. Everything master plan you will find at that website. So again, masterplan.suncitywest.com is the place, in addition to your point, information through the governing board and through these meetings.
Thank you. Director Piaskowski.
Okay, so I'm just kind of curious, the contract was more than what we approved as a board, and what their payment schedule is, and will we put that additional in our budget for next year? Because we approved $250,000, and I believe the contract's for $300. No?
$279.
So as with any capital project, we estimate what a cost is going to be, and if there is overage and it's within the general manager's spending authority, just like if it's under, which oftentimes it is. So the amount that was in the budget was $250,000. The original proposal from them was for $279,000 plus an optional $17,000 survey, statistically valid survey. I was able to negotiate with them to include the statistically valid survey without the additional cost. So the total cost of the contract is $279,000, $29,000 over the budgeted amount, which is within the general manager's spending authority.
No, that's a very fair question, and it will continue into next year. So if there's additional payments, what I believe our CFO can clarify, but that's something that's accrued for, and therefore whatever the payment schedule. But we basically have allocated the capital in this year, and we don't have to reallocate any additional next year. Correct? That was a good. Thank you for that. Anything else, directors? Okay, then, so nothing else on master plan. We'll move on. Oh, any comments from our residents here or in the, or online? Sorry, I didn't. So nothing online and nothing in the room? Well, I'm going to say I am super excited. Last week's tours ignited or reignited our fervor as a board, and we know how important it is to us. We look forward to working together with you, Stephen, on this. And again, just to underscore, and we'll keep amplifying for you folks, we know how important this is to our community, a great opportunity to meet the people who are going to be our consultants here is at that January 15th mid-year meeting. You don't want to miss it. Not only will you get the full update on what we've been up to, but you also get a chance to potentially meet the consultants as well. So we look forward to that. Moving on to 3.06. Speaking of the community tours, there's been a couple of posts on social media, but Director Schlemmer volunteered to give a little bit more of an overview of what in the world did we do. It was not just, it was fun and a great day, but it wasn't just a field trip. So Director Schlemmer is going to summarize for us what we did and for you.
Thank you, President Novello. Now I'm going to see if I'm technologically savvy enough to work this. So we're going to give this a theme. I like a little humor, so we're going to call this Pee-wee Goes to School, because here we are boarding the school bus. But at any rate, what we did. So, you know, one of the most important things I think that the governing board has on its shoulders is to preserve and protect the future of this community. And I think part of that is to make sure that we understand how we stack up in the world in which we operate. And as the housing market continues to be competitive, and as the retirement market becomes more competitive going forward with newer and newer communities out there on the horizon, the board thought it was important to go out and see how we compare to some of the newer community and their offerings across the world in which we live in. So, you know, we didn't go to Florida. Maybe we'll do that next week. But we did go and look at Victory at Verrado, Pebble Creek, Sun City Festival, and then we looked at 2 libraries that are brand new, one in Goodyear and one out at the, literally at the foothills of the White Tanks. The purpose of this was to really understand what our other communities are offering. You know, what do they do to lure new customers in? How do we compare with them, and how do we compete with the newer communities? And then also to understand how libraries are evolving. And, you know, what are they doing as the use of libraries changes, and how do they adapt to that? And then to identify considerations that we would bring back here as we enter the master planning phase of the strategic plan. So the first one we went out to is Victory at Verrado. Victory is about 10 years old now. It started in 2015. They have about 1,900 homes built. They are projected to go to 3,500. They are a smaller community. I would compare them in size, a little bit bigger than Portobello, probably about twice the size of Portobello when they're built out, but a very similar theme, a more tight-knit community, a little bit more of a resorty kind of feel to it, and so forth. But one of the things that really compelled us as we went into Victory at Verrado was their very effective use of courtyard space to create an open and airy feel, places for residents to gather informally, so their use of those types of facilities. Where they do not stack up with us, I think, is they do not have a lot of clubs and activities. I believe he told us they have about 20 clubs. They say 70 on here. When we asked their general manager, he answered about 20 or 30. I think he just wasn't sure. And very limited meeting space. So they do not have any dedicated meeting space for clubs. No club has a dedicated spot. They all kind of share a very limited number of meeting rooms. But it was beautiful. My first note was build mountain for pretty entrance drive. Pebble Creek is a little bit older. It was began in 1994. They are going to finish out at about 6,200 homes. They are at 6,000 homes right now. It was interesting talking to their general manager. He mentioned that they have about 160 lots left. And they're expecting to be there through 2027. So if you do the quick math on that, it's about 160 home sales a year. I found that kind of interesting. A little bit more pricey in terms of home values on the upper end, kind of in line with us throughout, except for a couple of higher end homes at the end there. But Robeson, who is the developer of Pebble Creek, got his career start at Del Webb. And of the newer developers building communities, Pebble Creek is the one who's probably most closely following the Sun City West model. And you feel that when you're there. Rec centers are very big, they're very spacious. What really struck us at Pebble Creek, again, was a good use of what they called flexible spacing or gathering space for their residents to come in informally and get together. They had a very nice coffee bar area with open tables. People were in chatting, people were in playing cards and so forth. So not designated space, anybody could come and use it. The other thing that came up in our discussions is the amount of newer retirees who are still working, and not uncommon to see someone come in and set up in this coffee area, have their computer and be doing work while they're drinking coffee and cheating a little and chatting with friends. Very nice facilities, however, and very comparable, I think, to what we have here in Sun City West. Not as good, but very comparable. Sun City Festival is out there in the middle of nowhere, out in Buckeye, and guess what? It's still in the middle of nowhere. And they are still promising a fry store. It's not there yet. They are at about 4,400 homes. They have 2,000 homes to go. What was interesting there, their general manager has been there the entire time, or almost the entire time that this community has been out there. She's been there for at least the last 11 or 12 years. They began just before the big crash, and that really affected them as well. Market is very similar to ours. So 300, a few upper end homes that probably outprice us, but 300. What was interesting as we talked with them is they have about 2,000 homes left to be built. They're going to finish up similar to Pebble Creek at around 6,000, 6,500. And they're estimating that they will still be selling homes there for the next 10 years. So again, if you do the math, very slow moving market, about 200 homes a year. And I say that because talking with Cliff during the tours, you know, our AFPs, we can count how many home sales we have, doesn't necessarily catch all of the inheritance and other things, but home sales. And we're bouncing right around 1,100, 1,200 a year, somewhere in that ballpark. Sun City Festival, similar to Pebble Creek, has a few amenities that we don't have. They do have an on-site restaurant. Pebble Creek as well had an on-site restaurant. In both cases, they operate the restaurant, so the HOA operates and manages it. Other than that, a lot of the other facilities at Festival are very similar to ours. Festival most aligns to us in having some clubs and activities that have dedicated space. Again, newer model. They are built by Pulte. Pulte does not invest as much in dedicated club space, so only their larger or the clubs that require a lot of equipment have dedicated space. Some of the smaller clubs do not. They had a sewing club room there, but they share it between sewing and quilting. You might, as many of you know here, we have Palo Verde Patchers has dedicated space. They're more quilting. Rip and Sew, dedicated space. They're more sewing, as my wife tells me, and so forth. So you see a little bit of change there. Sun City Festival did have one amenity that was very nice. They had a brand new rec center. It's just opened in the last couple of years. Very impressive in terms of the facility. So, you know, very nice. And that rec center has a lot of flexible spacing. You can see one of the pictures down here. And again, you see this sort of open gathering space. I chatted with the general manager while we were walking back to the bus. And I asked her, I said, you know, in the time that you've been in this business, what's been the biggest change that you've experienced? And she said, absolutely the demand for flex space was her biggest change. And she talked about, again, very much like Pebble Creek, employees who are still working and things of that nature, finding space, and also just informal ways for people to gather. So you'll see a picture of it in a moment. They had a whole area that was dedicated just for letting people come in and gather and play games and do things like that. We then went to the Georgia Lord Library in Goodyear, brand new, just opened within the last, Katie, I'm looking at you, year or two? 2022. There, it's right up there. Duh. Would help if I knew my own slides. But anyway, 2022. One of the things that grabs you when you walk in the newer libraries is the open flow to them. You can tell that the emphasis isn't on the books anymore. It's on other events and activities, and then books are just sort of part of the process, as opposed to 10 or 20 years ago when books were probably the driving force. And again, what you see is this incredible use of flex space, places for people to come sit and work and bring computers and do research. And they have all of these supporting facilities, and you can see that in this lower picture. The other thing that caught my attention as we were there is very low shelving, so you can see across it, and shelving with really good lighting. And I thought about a market like ours where we're dealing with people over age 55, sight lines, lighting, visibility, things of that nature. Probably the most impressive library I've ever been in terms of its surrounding scenery. So again, build Big Mountain, have pretty drive, was the White Tank Library, literally out at the foothills of the White Tank Mountains. And again, you saw the same theme, lower shelving. They had a beautiful view, lower shelving, good eye lines across. You can stand in one part of the library and see the entire floor, and also a lot of use of flexible spacing, so that events outside of just being about books were sort of a constant theme. So, early impressions and findings. We're still absorbing this. I think it was a great 2 days. I think my board colleagues here would say the same thing, to get out and see things. One of the first things, as we all got on the bus coming back, both days, and most importantly after we'd seen it all, was we are really fortunate. We have phenomenal amenities. We are very strong. We're very competitive. I personally, my view is nobody touches us. Of the things we saw, in terms of the quality, the diversity, and the array of our amenities, was very good. The amount of dedicated club space is very unique to us and our sister community down the street, Sun City. The way we utilize it, the way that our larger clubs have a place that they can call their own, and so forth. We also saw, as we've talked about, that flex space is in very high demand. Places to informally gather groups are very, very popular. A big takeaway, flat out warning from one of the general managers, food service and dining are a financial risk. And I don't want to divulge proprietary information from one of the communities because I don't feel comfortable doing that, but I will tell you that the financial losses he reported on their food service would be mind-blowing. As a board member, I would have a hard time selling that to the community. So we need to be careful there. We'd already talked about flexible workspace for residents. And the other thing here that I think a takeaway for us as we think about older amenities, our buildings are anywhere from 45 to 25 or so, 30 years old, is the inviting and welcoming use of colors. That really can perk things up. All of the facilities we're in, especially the newer ones, were very inviting, very warm, really made you want to kind of walk into them. And last slide is, I just want to give you some examples of this flex space concept, because I think of all the things we saw, we are phenomenally leaps and bounds competitive. We've got great facilities. This is the one area I think we do have some opportunity. So this picture on the left, your left, is the patio area out at Victory at Verado. It's just a small slice of it. It went on and had this beautiful view. Big Mountain, build Big Mountain, have a nice entrance road. But they had a lot of space for people to gather, fire pits, things of that nature. They do have food service. They didn't give us any details on it. It is still builder subsidized because they're still building it. The picture down here in the middle, that was up at Pebble Creek. That was the coffee bar that I talked about a little while ago. And you can see it was pretty busy. We were there relatively later in the morning, and it was still pretty busy and people sort of mingling and so forth. And then this upper picture is the dedicated flex space room up at Festival, and just a place for people to gather. There wasn't anybody in there. The morning we were there pretty early. And so the general manager did say if you come in, later in the day, mid-morning on, it does really fill up and you'll see people gathering, people coming in and working and things of that nature. So all in all, a productive couple of days for the board, a great opportunity to see where we stack up. I think we all feel confident in where we are and saw some pretty good and terrific opportunities. And with that, we can open it up, I guess, to questions.
Yeah, and again, I thank you, Director Schlemmer, for summarizing your impressions and some of the things that we did together with a couple members of staff. And again, because these are all, I'm sure you all appreciate the fact that the governing board spends a lot of time, and we're all volunteers, so not all the governing board directors were able to be present for both tours. Many of us were, though, and it was very helpful and inspiring. Brought back a lot of ideas. And, but again, really appreciate that. The things that really stood out, I came back just so, we've already talked about the opportunities at Johnson and what happens, in the back of our social hall, for example, when you reimagine what we could do is really quite astounding. The consultants at Barry Dunn were able to join us for these tours as well, and that was helpful. When they heard our enthusiasm and some of our the board members' impressions, they did point out, and again, this is sort of priming the pump because we haven't officially had our kickoff presentations from the consultants yet. But part of their scope of work is to actually, they have the capability to do some of the design, some of the things that we were asking ourselves, gee, we really need a professional designer, for example, to give us some input on how we take action on things like colors and furnishings. So they apparently have that expertise, and they'll bring that expertise within their scope of work for what they're engaged to do for the coming year. Just a kind of observations there. So other directors, either who were there or not there, anything that you want to contribute or add? Yes, Director Chatton.
I would just comment that there is no competition to our 7 golf courses.
That is absolutely true. The places we went to had one, and in each case, these were all under development, so they still have a lot of investment coming in from the builders, from the developers. And again, those are the places that are making investments in and losing quite a bit of money on their dining. But they also, I don't believe they offered much, if any, discount to their residents other than some preferential tea times. But very interesting model. Again, different, not something that I think we're entertaining, but just where we stood out for differences. So Director Turner first, thank you.
Yeah, one of the other things that struck me when we were talking with the general managers, and again, I don't want to give away necessarily proprietary information, but that was on the staffing levels. One of those communities, when it just comes to the maintenance of the landscaping on the golf courses and the greenskeepers and so on, they've got 50% more per 18 holes than we do. One of the things I get is that we are actually running very, very efficiently here. When they talk about the number of banqueting staff they have, the number of full-time staff they have, and their communities at a third the size of ours. And you say, how many staff have you got? And they say, well, we've got about 450. Well, we're 3 times as big, and we have about 450. So we are, I believe, running and we get economies of scale, but we're also, running quite efficiently.
This is very true, but Stephen, don't go getting any ideas. But thank you for pointing that out. We learned a lot. Director Schlemmer?
There's a couple of things I meant to point out in the presentation, and just some of the comments made me think about it. One is, one of the communities we went to, they don't own their golf course. It's not even that they have a management company running it. They completely don't own it. And that scares me because one of your biggest assets, you don't have any control over. And that organization gives absolutely zero discount to their residents. They pay the same price, they're paying the same freight that everybody else pays. You walk in off the street. So that caught me by a bit of surprise. The other thing is, we haven't talked about cost. Nobody comes close. The cost, average annual cost for both Pebble Creek and for Festival is over double. If you consider our cost, it's over double what a 2-person, they build by roof, but it's over double what a 2-person household would pay. per year. Victory at Verado, they tout a low annual monthly fee. Their annual monthly fee is about 50% higher on an annual basis. Their monthly fee you pay on an annual basis, it's about 50% higher than ours. But you then also have to pay a similar fee because you're part of the Verado community. So you pay your fee and you pay a Verado fee. So you think about our amenities and you come back and you look at things like our tennis facility and our pickleball fields and our awesome swimming pools and our golf courses, and then you add up the cost and you say, we're doing it on, somewhere between $1,050, $1,100 a year for a two-person household in terms of your rec center fees. And the other communities aren't delivering nearly close to what we're delivering, and you're paying over double what we pay, and sometimes more.
Not that we're going to take any action on, as you said, right? So we're pleased that with what we have and what we've been able to continue to offer. So, yes, Director Becknell?
One of the things I focused on in talking with the general managers and some of the staff was their current reserve fund and how they were doing with that. And since the builders were still somewhat engaged in the development and the build out, one of them had no reserve fund. The other one had like a $5 million reserve fund. And it was actually frightening because you realize that within a year or two, those builders were going to be done, pull out, and these homeowners were going to probably have a huge multi-year assessment in order to build this reserve fund and have something to work from. One of the communities we went to actually had a restriction that no one under the age of 19 is allowed outside of their grandparents' home. So they couldn't come to the pool. There were never any children's hours. They couldn't come to the restaurant. They couldn't do anything. So no one under the age of 19 was allowed anywhere on the property. So I found that to be, kind of amazing. So again, looking at what we do and what our staff tries to do and making the amenities available to our families and to ourselves was fantastic. And the fact that our board for years has done a fantastic job of defining the reserve fund and making sure that we have that funded balance, and that our friend Cliff spends so much of his time and effort making sure that we put money back into that reserve fund so we can do the things we need to do. And we are looking really good. So,
Yeah, thank you for that. It's, we're not resting on our laurels here as a board. It was very inspiring, and if anything, we're aware now and really looking forward to future years. We're aware of the current challenges that we have, and we're not going to look away from those. But it's really important for us as a board to start, reaffirming our commitment to looking, visionary and looking beyond the current issues, and also where are we going as a future. And I think having had the foresight of many years and decades of prudent fiscal management, we're in a good position to be able to build this out. Any other director comments? We do have a question online. Do we have any questions in the room? If you could come we'll read the question online while you come to the podium. So go ahead, Director Forsey.
This is from Mary Gannett. If the tennis courts, excuse me, I'm dropping down a little bit. Mary Gannett, how will you determine the needs on the expenditure? My issue on flex space would be the outdoor space at Kuntz is very nice, but as far as I can see, it's underutilized. Then
Same person, it's okay. I'm not saying, okay.
Anyway, she goes on in another one and she says, I'm not saying I oppose, but maybe start with a coffee bar there or something.
Thanks for the suggestion, Mary. That's exactly what we're going to be considering, again, as a part of our exercise for strategic planning and master planning. We don't know the full needs. We just were inspired and realized we need to continue thinking about our flex spaces. I think, as Director Schlemmer was noting, Kuntz is one. We were already talking earlier about R.H. Johnson. We have some beautiful potential flex space that is just not obvious up at Palm Ridge as well. So really, each of our, and not to leave Beardsley out, we have some beautiful park space and other spaces. It's just not, perhaps not set up in a way that would inspire people to sit down and use it, but we're inspired to figure that out. So thanks for the comment. And yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Paul Burrier, 113848. And I left this meeting last week and I thought, you're running down our place. And then I know that wasn't the intent, but I went home and I had to look up the 10 best 55 community resources in the United States. And guess who's listed about 5th or 6th? It's us. And some of them, I looked at are rated number 1, they don't have what we got, but they have the new modern. Maybe they got more pickleballs or more golf things. Nobody's going to have more than 7 golf courses. I need to apologize. I'm late. I had to take my dog to the eye doctor. That's why I'm full of hair. And that makes me think about the dog park. I can talk about that too. But you mentioned about you wanted to get together and people in like little areas. And it came up this last week when there's a group of people that work out in the morning at 6 o'clock. And we couldn't, I don't know what this was covered earlier today. I again apologize for being here late. But we couldn't get into the building till 6 o'clock. Now, we used to get in about a quarter till. We'd go sit down and talk. And they had 16 to 20 chairs to sit around at Palm Ridge and talk. But now all once it's changed. It's kind of like we're changing something, we're fixing something that's not broke. And I don't know why it's all once now we can't get in till 6 o'clock. We used to get in at 5. And I know we call that. I get excited.
That's okay. Take your time.
I'm running out of time.
No, that's quite all right. Finish your thought. That's okay.
But, well, the thing was, I'd like to see us would go back to not fix something that's not broke. And I think that's what we're looking at Palm Ridge. And I don't know what's caused this change.
I'm going to ask our general manager, I'm sorry to interrupt you, stay right there and make sure that we address it, but the general manager can answer for us, were the operational hours changed or the procedures?
Yeah, thank you, President Novello. So, no, they've not changed. So the official hours are opening at 6 a.m. And what we did find, though, was that was not being applied by staff consistently. So we are applying that consistently across the board now. So I guess that's the only change is maybe to do exactly what we're supposed to be doing in the first place, which is open appropriately at 6 a.m.
So it's not, the hours have always been 6. Perhaps some of the facilities managers had chosen to open the doors a little earlier. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct.
Well, I'd like to go back to that. And I know that on Monday when it happened, there was 40 to 50 people waiting in line. They want to sign up for their equipment. Okay, that was the reason I understood. You got 5 minutes to get ready to get on the equipment. You got your 30 minutes, and then somebody else would come in and get their 30 minutes. And that maybe that's just a way of thinking. And I got to bring it up there. I see other people have been in there talking. I see no number less than mine. Not that that means anything. I've been here a long time. I think everything's been going good. And sometimes people want change, but they don't want change or they want it for a certain reason. And I probably could talk to the general manager. I think what caused the problem with the 6 o'clock starting time. But again, last week you wanted to talk about people getting together and talking, communicating. We do that at a quarter till 6, but we don't get in. We're in the building, but we're not using any of the equipment or anything. We're in the lobby. And I'll leave it go at that. Thank you.
Thank you. The general manager and his staff are pretty open to resident comments. You're not the only person who's made this comment this week, I will say. But I know, Stephen, your door and your team's doors are always open to entertaining these input and suggestions, right?
Correct.
I asked Stephen for a question first, so if he could answer that, and then we'll come to you. Thanks.
Yeah, that's correct. And again, I just wanted to clarify what was happening was, I mean, I think it's one of those, staff was trying to be accommodating, even though technically we weren't ready for them to be open yet. And the struggle was that we were having members come in while we were still trying to get things cleaned and get things properly situated and in a safe manner. And it was inhibiting our ability to do that, is why we were making it more. We basically just said, okay, listen, we've got to make sure everything's situated and actually open the doors when we're supposed to open the doors. It doesn't mean it's off the table that we can't ever consider additional hours or different hours. But at this point, the official hours are opening at 6 a.m. It's just one of those things that staff was, again, as we always do, trying to be accommodating, trying to be helpful. And it's one of those, I guess, maybe no good deed goes unpunished kind of things, is that it became an issue for us. And so we needed to make sure that we were being consistent with that.
Thanks for the answer. Now, go ahead, Director Schlemmer.
I just wanted to respond to the gentleman's comments, and I appreciate what you brought forward. I just wanted to reassure you, if you left the last meeting with any sense that we had any adverse view, that's at all not the case. We were all actually pretty pumped up. I do agree that, when you get pretty excited, you might think, oh, we're swinging over one way or the other. Clearly, we were pretty excited about some of the flex-based things that we were seeing. But I agree with you, and I'm very familiar with the survey that you're looking at. It's the one I'm always looking at. We're actually number 6. We're one slot above the villages, which I'm really proud of. Anytime we can beat the villages out, that's a good thing. But the other piece to it is, though, I'm a firm believer that complacency is a danger. And so as much as I believe, and I think we've reaffirmed by this visit, that we're in really, really good shape, I would encourage all future boards to occasionally do the same exercise we did, because, we want to, I'm going to use a retail analogy. We want to be Walmart against Amazon versus Kmart against Amazon. And the only way to do that is to do what Walmart did, keep an eye on your competitors and know what they're doing. And when they're doing something better than you, go out and try to beat them at it. At the same time, don't sit back and let them just run past you and then suddenly you're not there. I think our obligation to you as an owner is not just to give you the great amenities that you have, but also to all of you. I think our real role as well is to preserve and protect the value of the community going forward. And I know I'll hear people say all the time, well, I'm not going to have to worry about it. I'm hoping to give my kids a really great investment when I'm no longer around, so that they go, wow, Mom and Dad did something really great. Or maybe they'll actually come live here because we did something great keeping the place up.
Thanks for that, Director Schlemmer. That is the reason why we are looking forward, not to fix something that's broken. To the contrary, we want to stay on that list, and in order to do that, we have to. We've talked a bit about how long it takes to make some of these changes and approvals. It will take a while, so I'm glad that we're on the right path. Any other? Yes, Director Williams.
Yeah, I am one of those early birds. And I witnessed exactly what he was experiencing about the hours of letting in. And it got to the point where the monitors working asked everybody to quit talking and flat out said, we will be, they are watching us, they being staff, management, and we will be written up and penalized if we let any of you in early. Don't blame us. It's not our fault. We're just following the rules. But it became obvious that they were getting a lot of flack because they were right there and we were the source to complain to. But and we've got some excellent monitors at Palm Ridge, some that have been with us many, many years. And when it gets them to that level that they felt they needed to just inform us, don't blame us, blame them. But I think that there is a regular group there, and like he says, many days we have an awful lot of people waiting in line to go in, and the issue of signing up for equipment is still a big issue, because the other question that was posed, and I might as well bring it up here, have we given any thought for people to be able to go online and sign up for their equipment before they leave home? You know, can they do that in advance? And I don't know if we've ever thought about that, but that was one of the issues that came up, because that's always the problem.
Okay.
So
Well,
I just wanted to
again, as,
mention that, to think about it, or if you have considered it.
as, as I heard, I'd like, you to- again, Stephen can weigh in. Stephen had said the decision came from him, right? There was no evading. He said flat out that that the decision to enforce the operating hours did come from management, right? So
Oh, we
we
knew
understand
that.
that, right? So
We
I
knew we
appre-
would have blamed.
Yeah, well, we
Just
appreciate,
joking.
the honesty and the transparency on where the decision came from, so appreciate
Yeah,
that part.
yeah.
And hear your suggestion. It's been, I think, many others through you and even on their own have suggested something about the sign-up, so it's something that I hope that Stephen and the team will take and consider going forward. That might alleviate some of the pressure
Yeah,
on
I
the
know
opening
Stephen
time.
has alluded to, there were some other different rec centers that were disobeying the orders and opening much early, and that's where it became the problem, and I understand that, but just wanted to give you a little feedback also on that.
Thanks.
And of course, the next question, when are you going to move it back to open at 5 a.m.? There's a
Well-
whole lot of us that would still be there at 5 a.m.
Well, the operating hours have always been 6, and that's what I
well-
understand.
No,
As for the
no.
community tour recap, were the operating hours changed? Am I wrong?
They were not changed. The official hours are 6 a.m.
Okay.
No, the
so-
hours were changed.
The change
It used to be
was-
5 a.m. and when COVID hit is when they
but
changed it to 6. And
in the
that's-
current-
that
in the
used to
current
be
year.
the only rec center that opened at 5 a.m.
In the current year, the operating hours have been
Yeah,
6
and now
a.m.
they're
for
all
as
the
long as
same,
I'm aware.
6 a.m., 9 p.m.
Right,
Thank
so-
you.
Thank you, Kay, and I'm sorry to interrupt you all. We're just trying to keep moving forward. We're well into the second hour. So, sir, you had another comment that you wanted to make? And we can
Yes, I
restart the
did.
timer.
How do I say this? I know,
And we're, by the way, the topic that we're discussing is the community tours. So please keep it on topic if possible. Thank you.
well, on the tours are what to make Sun City West look better. And I can think we're the first in the country. I got a pub for the Auto Restoration Club. I see Mr. Jones over there. And you don't know how many people have moved here due to the Auto Restoration Club. I mentioned last week my wife was a realtor, and she's put a lot of people in here as a result of that. And I just want to say, you're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for that comment. So any other comments or input on the community tours? And we have plenty of time left for director comments as well and resident comments on other general topics. Thanks again, Director Schlemmer, for a recap, and we'll move on now to our board director comments, although we've been a chatty group today. We'll go back to you, Director Williams. I know that you had, and thanks for those. Any other comments or input that you wanted to share on that topic or any others?
Yes. This has been an interesting year with an interesting board. As one who's been on the board 7 out of the last 12 years, I have a history and the fossil of remembrance. But I want to take this opportunity to encourage more of you in this audience and those of you listening. It is still not too late to pick up a packet to run for the governing board. We need fresh ideas, we need fresh energy, and you've still got time to get those signatures. As was mentioned before, they have to be turned into the office on January 2nd by 2:30 in the afternoon. So before you leave here, go over to the office, pick up a packet, get moving. You will find there's lots of resources. If any of you need any hints on the best places to get signatures, call me. I know them all. Thank you, and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you, Director Williams. And although I would never pretend to have more information on the best places to grab those things than Director Williams would, my door's also open if anybody ever needed any insights on what it's like to serve on the board, et cetera. I couldn't encourage you more to volunteer and join us. Director Grom?
Yes, thank you, President Novello. Our general manager already spoke to the fact that on January 15th in the morning will be our mid-year meeting at Palm Ridge. Attendance has been declining, so I would urge everyone to try to make it to that meeting because it's a little bit different than this one. But that afternoon, we are kind of giving a public service, let's say, to our residents. Maricopa Association of Governments Program Manager for the 303 Route 60 project will be giving a presentation. And I've heard the presentation. He's got some wonderful slides. And that whole program, which will take Route 60 all the way up to 74 and will take 303 all the way over to Happy Valley Road, he will talk to what they're doing, as that will be about a 10-year program as they add on and off ramps to Route 303 going towards Asante. But I would urge everyone to attend that afternoon session. Tell your neighbors about it. Have them come. That way you can get the truth, and you can even give inputs perhaps. But it's pretty well planned out. It looks like a pretty good thing, and it will eventually eliminate just about every traffic light between our entrance across from the Grand at the end of R.H. Johnson all the way up to Route 74. They're going to completely rework the entrance into Asante, and it'll actually be a road you might enjoy taking someday. But I urge you to attend that presentation on that afternoon. Thank you, and have a happy holiday.
Thanks, Director Grom. Thanks. You were one of the people, many, who suggested that. So thanks, and thank you, Stephen, for coordinating that event for our community and our neighboring communities. Director Piaskowski.
I, too, encourage everyone to run for the board. It is important to get involved, whether it's a committee, whether it's a club officer. That's what makes our community what it is. So, yes, Kay, you know it all. So let's encourage those other residents that are like, oh, I don't have enough time. Yes, you all have time. It's not that much of a commitment, except for BNF. So with that said, I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and look at this, it doesn't snow here.
I'm disappointed that you didn't wear the hat here, but thank you very much, Director Piaskowski. Director Forsey.
Just Merry Christmas. If you're traveling, be safe, and thanks for everything that you do.
Thank you. Director Chatton?
Yes, you know, there was an employee breakfast this morning, and I always find it interesting because we talk about the numbers of employees we have here, and we throw around, well, we got 400 employees. I'll tell you, when you're there and you see 400 employees filing in to have breakfast and visit with each other, and the camaraderie that they have, and the association they have with their supervisors, I just think it's a wonderful experience, and I'm glad that we continue to do that. We have incredible employees here. And then you can actually see management serving all the other employees.
Cooking and serving.
That's kind of fun. Anyway, besides that, I just wish everyone a blessed Christmas, and I look forward to next year.
Thank you, Director Chatton. Director Becknell.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't add to Alan's presentation to talk about the fact that some of the amenities that we have, including ARC, which I do think is a huge draw for a lot of people that come to the community, and they love to see that we have the Auto Restoration Club, but that our sports pavilion is far and above top-notch of everything we saw in all the communities we went to. Most of them didn't even have a bowling alley, and if they have a billiards room, they had 3 billiards tables. And so to highlight our sports pavilion group, as well as the auto restoration, as so many other amenities that are in the community, I think are key to the people that live here, and how they should speak up about the community when they're talking to other people, because it's just incredible what we have. So I wish everybody a happy holidays, and we'll see you next year.
Thanks, Director Becknell. Dr. Schlemmer?
Thank you, President Novello. First, I want to echo John's comments about the breakfast this morning. Phenomenal. I do want to add a little fun stat that I was given this morning. Over the course of the years of the employee breakfasts, they've estimated that they've served 10,100 eggs. It's pretty amazing. I'm going to go a little off topic before I close on a holiday wish. Normally I talk about clubs and things like that. now that everybody's back and I see folks out enjoying the beautiful weather we have here in Arizona, over the last week or two, I've noticed a lot of folks out bicycling, and they're bicycling with no helmet, no lights on their bike or anything. I want to be very candid. I sit in front of you today for one very good reason. When I was hit by that car a little over a year ago at 50 miles an hour, I landed head first. My helmet saved my life. There's no question about it. I would not be here today. I was close enough as it was. I would not be here today. Please, folks, if you're out riding bikes or your grandkids get a bike for Christmas, please get a helmet. Go to Walmart, $19.99 or whatever. I don't care what you buy. Buy the cheapest one, buy the most expensive. It just makes a world of difference. And I would be heartbroken to see anybody get hurt or killed because they didn't have a helmet on. I want to thank all the clubs who have done great things for Christmas. I won't even try to name them all. And most importantly, to all of you and to my fellow board members, the very best of the holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, or whatever your personal beliefs have you follow. I wish you all the best, and I thank you, everybody, for their support. Have a great holiday.
Thank you. Last but not least, Director Turner.
Yeah, I've only got about 17 things. First of all, just Alan's comments about safety for cyclists. Most mornings at this time of year, I'm driving somewhere before the sun is up, and I'm coming home in the evening after the sun has gone down. And every day I see a car or a golf cart driving with no lights on in the dark. So set them to auto. It's easy. And if you don't set them to auto, please remember. The other thing is that, to echo the comments about us perhaps running down Sun City West, my view of the long-term planning process is that I believe we have the best value and overall package for a retirement community, certainly in this area, if not this state. And the long-term plan is how we keep it that way. It's how we continue to maintain ourselves and be the best value and be attractive to newer buyers and younger generations as they come in. That's about it. I think, as we get into the long-term plan, we have to think about IT and communications and things like that. And, we have one of the places we visited, the residents gained access to the resident-only facilities by using a Bluetooth-linked app on their smartphone. We have a lot of residents here who could not manage that, but that's what we need to prepare for the days and times when most of our residents can manage that sort of thing. So we need to be, looking at the investments we need to make, preparing for the future. Everything we do has to be smart when we build it and flexible, so that we can manage things for the future. That's it. Oh, and happy holidays, of course.
Thank you so much. Before I turn it to our general manager, I also wanted to echo everybody's wishes, of course, for a very, very happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and health and continued prosperity and health in the next year. But I also wanted to add, because Stephen was mentioning at our last week's meeting a few of the kudos that are hardworking employees, and they are amazing employees, very inspiring to go to the breakfast and so forth this morning. But our own very hardworking governing board executive assistant, Karen Ropkin, received a kudos card and package this week as well. So I wanted to highlight her. If you have any doubt about what Karen does, chances are you're witnessing it, because we would not be here and functional if we didn't have Karen's overall support, her guidance and direction. But a lot of you as owner members and residents, when you interact with the governing board, one of the first people you interact with is Karen. So one of you wrote to us as a collective celebrating that, and I believe part of the quote was, Karen not only went the extra mile, she went 10 miles or more out of her way to make this person feel really welcomed and appreciated and to get their answers. So from all of us, Karen, thank you very much. Extra kudos, and thank you. And thanks for the kudos program, by the way. Stephen, comments?
Thank you, President Novello. So, and I know we're running long, I'm sorry, but I do need to be remiss if I didn't. First, I want to thank the governing board for those that were able to make the tours. I think it was a great time to get out there, and I really appreciate you all taking that time to do that. But I do want to thank Katie and Nadine. They did a phenomenal job putting that together. There was a lot of logistics for them to arrange with that, so I appreciate them doing that. And then as for the breakfast this morning, listen, it's our honor as a management team to serve our team breakfast in the morning. It was a lot of fun. I do want to call out, though, specifically Casey, who does an amazing job putting that together. She's the one that really is the driver behind that and making sure that we had all the right food and got up to the 10,000 eggs that we did. And I know Russ and Dee, they are the ones that have made those eggs. They're the two that are cooking the eggs all morning long, basically. But it really is a great time, and it's really one of my favorite things to do. As tough as it is to get that early in the morning to be there, it's such a great time to see, and to the point about seeing all the employees, and it's just amazing to have them come around. So, and I appreciate the governing board also being there to support us for that as well. So thank you, and as everybody also, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you all for your support, governing board as well as the community.
Yeah, we're looking forward to an action-packed calendar year as we head down into and start 2026. Thank you, Stephen. And now to resident comments. We have one of our residents at the microphone already.
Yes. Kudos for you guys going out and seeing other communities. I think that's something was well overdue. To Director Schumer, I was going to call you Doctor, or Schlemmer, excuse me. I agree. Our community, it ranks top. We are by far, I don't know why we're not number one, to be honest, because our amenities by far do not compare to any other community. I've been to the villages. I've done my own little homework assignments, and yeah, they're the latest and greatest. But when you boil it down, we have the substance, we have the amenities, we have the fun, if you will, here in Fun City West. And then the irony of all that is what you had pointed out is we just need a little bit of paint, a little bit of art, a little bit of creativity. It really excited me, President Novello, in regards to knowing that the folks are going to help with the master planning, have design assistance as well, because that's going to be very, very impactful. All of that to say, I would be remiss if I didn't. I apologize. I wasn't at the last meeting. I was in the middle of the Caribbean diving with the fishies.
Don't apologize for that.
But I felt that the kitchen, the cat got out of the box. The word commercial got tripped over too many times. That was never. Let me boil it all down. The idea, the concept, the thinking was we did make it too broad, but the idea was to retrofit the social hall kitchen to allow get rid of some of the Betty Crocker ovens, but to kick it up a couple notches. We weren't going to be doing a full-blown restaurant service by any measure. That was never the intent. So when you use the word commercial, it can go way out of there. It was to basically have facilities to do some cooking classes. Maybe some of the clubs could be, for an example, I hosted Oktoberfest for the Boomers Club, and I really wanted to take it to a whole level and have the pretzels. We have a Betty Crocker kitchen in the Coots Clubhouse, and there's no way you're going to cook 300 pretzels out of that little oven. So to have something a little more upscale to where we could accommodate a club of, a couple 300, whatever, there at the social hall. It was all about retrofitting that kitchen. That was the original. idea.
Director, I'm calling you director.
Someday.
Again, we have packets available.
I'm going to
but,
do the tour of the
Mr.
committees.
Scott, you have had your 2 minutes. Do you need more time?
No, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
apologize.
No, I wanted to query the board. Thank you for your comments. And remember, it's not off the table forever. It just means we've had the vote today. We won't consider it in the current budget, but thank you for the comments and clarifications.
Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. And packets are available until the end of the month. This have to be completed as we were describing. So thank you again. I don't see any other comments online. So with that, again, you have our very best wishes. I'm sorry, and we know that we had a couple of directors who had to leave, so Director Forsey is leaving now. Our next governing board workshop is on January the 9th at 9 a.m. right here. And our regular meeting will be on January the 22nd of the new year at 9 a.m. right here. We look forward to seeing you there. A very happy holiday. I adjourn this meeting at 12:25.